What's up, guys, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Sinister Files. If you like what you see or hear, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to stay up to date on all my newest content. The Keddie Murders are an unsolved 1981 quadruple homicide in Keddie, California, a rural resort town in the Sierra Nevada. The victims were Glenna Susan Sue Sharp, born March 29, 1945, her son John Stephen Sharp, born November 16, 1965, daughter Tina Lynn Sharp, born July 22, 1968, and John's friend Dana Hall Wingate, born February 8, 1964. The murders took place in Cabin 28 of the Keddie Resort during the late evening of April 11, 1981, or early following morning. The bodies of Sue, John, and Dana are found on the morning of April 12th by Sue's 14-year-old daughter, Sheila. Sue's two younger sons, Rick and Greg, as well as their friend Justin Smart, were also in the house but were unharmed. Tina, however, was missing from the scene. Tina remained a missing person until April 1984 when her skull and several other bones were recovered at Camp 18, California, near Feather Falls in Butte County. Multiple leads and suspects were examined in the intervening years. Though no charges were filed, subsequent sheriffs in Plymouth County would state that initial investigation was disorganized and poorly conducted, resulting in overlooking of crucial evidence. Several new leads have been announced in the 21st century, including discovery of a hammer in a pond in 2016, as well as announcements regarding the discovery of new DNA evidence. The Keddie Murders have received national media attention, including coverage in People's Magazine. An investigation discovery documentary on series BuzzFeed's Unsolved and Independent 2008 feature documentary titled Cabin 28 renewed public interest in the case and sparked in part of a release of a 2008 horror film, The Strangers, which various internet bloggers theorized was inspired by the Keddie Murders. Despite similarities, the film had no such claims to having been based on the crimes. In the fall of 1980, Glenna Susan Sharp, along with her 5 children, left her home in Connecticut after separating from her abusive husband, James Sharp. She decided to relocate to Northern California, where her brother Don was residing at the time. Upon arriving in California, she began renting Cabin 28 at the Keddie Resort in rural Sierra Nevada community of Keddie. There she resided with her 15-year-old son, John, 14-year-old daughter Sheila, and 12-year-old daughter Tina, and 2 younger sons, Rick and Greg, aged 10 and 5. On April 11, 1981, around 1:30 p.m., Sue and Sheila drove to Keddie to pick up John and his friend Dana Hall Wingate from Gansner Park in Quincy, California, and brought them back to Keddie about 5 miles away. 2 hours later, around 3:30 p.m., John and Dana hitchhiked back to Quincy, where they may have had plans to visit friends. Around this time, the two were seen in the city's downtown area. A local woman, Donna Williams, have claimed to pick them up in front of a tire store and give them a ride down the road to another friend's home. The two were later seen attending a party in Oakland Camp in Quincy. That same evening, Sheila had plans to spend the night at Seabolt's family, who lived adjacent cabin, while Sue remained at home with Rick and Greg and the boys' younger friend, Justin Smart. Sheila departed Cabin 28 after 8 o'clock p.m., leaving her mother alone and the younger children. Tina, who had been watching television at the Seabolts, returned home at Cabin 28 around 9:30 p.m. After Sheila arrived at the Seabolts to spend the night, around 7 o'clock in the morning of April 12th, Sheila returned to Cabin 28 and discovered the dead bodies of John, Sue, Dana in the cabin's living room. All 3 had been bound with adhesive tape and wire. Tina was absent from home, while the 3 younger children, Rick and Greg and Justin, were unharmed in the adjacent bedroom. Initial reports stated that the 3 young boys had slept through the incident, though this later was contradicted upon discovering the scene. Sheila rushed back to the Seabolt's cabin, whereupon James Seabolt retrieved Rick and Greg and Justin through the bedroom window. He later admitted to having briefly entered the cabin through the back door to see if anyone was still alive, potentially contaminating evidence in the process. The murders of Sue, John, and Dana were notably vicious. 2 bloody knives and 1 hammer were found at the scene, and one of the knives, a steak knife later determined to have been used in the murder, had been bent in half due to extreme force. Blood splatter evidence from inside the house indicated that the murders of Sue, John, and Dana had all taken place in the living room. Sue was discovered lying on her side near the living room sofa, nude from the waist down and gagged with the blue bandana and her own panties, which had been secured with tape. She had been stabbed in the chest, her throat was slashed, and on the side of her head was an imprint matching the butt of a Daisy 880 BB gun. John's throat was slashed, Dana had multiple head injuries, and had been manually strangled. All three had blunt force trauma to their heads, caused by a hammer or hammers. Autopsies determined that they died from the knife wounds and blunt force trauma. Sheila and the Sebo family, with whom Sheila had spent the night with the neighbors in the cabin, heard no commotion during the night. A couple living nearby was awakened around 1:30 a.m. by what sounded like muffled screaming, but couldn't say where they were from. Tina's jacket, shoes, and shoebox containing various tools were missing from the cabin, which showed no indication of forced entry. And an unidentified fingerprint was found on the handrail on the stairs leading to the cabin's back door. The cabin's telephone had been left off the hook, its lights were off, and the drapes were closed. Suspects interviewed include a man who disappeared from Keddie shortly after the murders and was later found in Oregon. After submitting to a polygraph examination, subjects were cleared. One of the Sharps' neighbors, Marilyn Smart, mother of Justin, later claimed that she had found a bloody jacket belonging to Tina in her basement and had returned it into the police, though no official record of this exists. Her husband, Martin Smart, also claimed that the claw hammer had inexplicably gone missing from his home. Plumas County Sheriff Doug Thomas, who presided over the case, later stated that Martin had provided endless clues in the case and seemed to throw the suspicion away from him. In addition to interviewing the Smarts, detectives interviewed numerous of other local neighbors. Several, including members of the Sebo family, recalled seeing an unknown green van parked at the Sharps' cabin around 9:00 p.m. Others recalled noticing a brown Datsun parked in the residence that evening, which appeared to have tires that was going flat. Justin gave conflicting stories of the evening, including that he had dreamt details of the murders, though he later claimed to have actually witnessed them. In his later account of events, told under hypnosis, he claimed that he had heard sounds coming from the living room while watching television in the bedroom with Rick and Greg. Investigating these sounds, he saw Sue with two men, one with a mustache and short hair, and the other clean-shaven with long hair. Both wore glasses. According to the case, Justin, John, and Dana then entered the home and began a heated argument with the men. A fight ensued, after which Tina entered the room and was taken out of the cabin's back door by one of the men. Based on Justin's description, composite sketches of the two unknown men were produced by forensic artist Harlan Embry, and press releases accompanying the sketches. The suspects were both described as being in their late 20s to 30s and stood both over 5 feet and 11 inches, and they both wore gold-framed sunglasses. Rumors regarding the crime began ritualistic or motivated by drug trafficking were dismissed by Plumas County Sheriff Doug Thomas, who stated in a week following the murders that no drug paraphernalia or illegal drugs were found in the home. Carla McMullen, a family acquaintance, later told detectives Dana Wingate had recently stolen an unknown quantity of LSD from local drug dealers. Though she was unable to provide proof of this claim, about 4,000 man-hours were spent working the case, which Thomas described as frustrating. In December 1983, detectives ruled out serial killers Henry Lee Lucas and Otis Tooley as potential suspects. Because Tina was believed to have been abducted from the crime scene, her disappearance was initially investigated by the FBI, though it was reported on April 29, 1981 that the FBI had backed off the search as the Department of Justice was doing an adequate job and made the FBI's presence unnecessary. A grid pattern search of the area covering a 5-mile radius around the cabin was conducted with police canines, but the efforts were fruitless. On April 22, 1984, 3 years and 11 days after the murder and Tina's disappearance, a bottle collector discovered a cranium portion of a human skull and part of a mandible at a Camp 18 near Feather Hills in the neighboring Butte County, a distance of roughly 100 miles away from Keddie. Shortly after announcing the discovery, Butte County Sheriff's Officer received an anonymous call that identified the remains as belonging to Tina, but the call was not documented in the case. A recording of this call was found at the bottom of an evidence box at some point around 2013 by a deputy who was assigned to the case. The remains were confirmed by a forensic pathologist to be those of Tina Sharp in June 1984. Near the remains, detectives also discovered a blue nylon jacket, a blanket, a pair of Levi's Stratus jeans with a missing back pocket, and an empty surgical tape dispenser. In 1996, Robert Joseph Severia Jr. was examined as a potential suspect in the murders. The cabin in which the murders occurred was demolished in 2004. In a 2008 documentary on the murders, Marlon Smart claimed that she suspected her husband Martin had his friend John, also known as Bo, were responsible for the murders of Sue, John and Dana, and Tina. Marilyn claimed that on the evening of the crime, she had left Martin and Bo at a bar around 11 p.m. and returned home to go to sleep around 2 a.m. On April 12th, she stated that she woke up to find two burning an unknown item in a wood stove. Additionally, she alleged that Martin hated John Sharp with a passion. However, in 2008, a documentary, Sheriff Doug Thomas said he personally interviewed Martin, and Martin had passed a polygraph examination. Martin Smart died of cancer in Portland, Oregon in June 2000. John, also known as Bo, who allegedly had ties to organized crime in Chicago, died there in 1988. On March 24, 2016, a hammer matching the description of the hammer that Martin claimed to have lost was discovered in a local pond and taken into evidence by Plumas County Special Investigator Mike Gamberg. Plumas County Sheriff Hagwood, who was 16 years old at the time of the murders and knew the Sharp family, personally stated the location it was found, it would have been intentionally put there. It would not have been accidentally misplaced. Gamberg also stated that at this time 6 potential suspects were being examined. In a 2016 article published by Sacramento Bee detailing the discovery of the hammer, shortly after the murders, Martin had left Keddie and driven into Reno, Nevada. From there, he sent a letter to Marilyn, ruminating on personal struggles in their marriage, which he concluded with, "I pay the price of your love, and now I bought it with 4 other people's lives." In 2016 interview, Gamberg stated that the letter was overlooked in the initial investigation and never admitted as evidence. He later criticized the quality of initial investigating, saying, "You could take someone just coming out of the academy and they'd have done a better job." A counselor who Martin regularly visited would also allege that he admitted to the murders of Sue and Tina, but claimed, "I didn't have anything to do with the boys." He allegedly told the counselor that Tina was killed to prevent her from identifying him, as she had been a witness to the whole thing. So thank you for watching another episode of the Sinister Files. Remember to like and subscribe, and to stay up to date on all my newest content, go ahead and turn on the notifications. Thank you for watching.